participants, there were several people from municipalities, from large corporations, and also small businesses. And while municipalities will have typically emergency management plans in place for disasters, and large corporations will typically have business resiliency plans in place, many small businesses don't have such a plan and face a crisis once it arises, and sometimes has to backpedal because they aren't as prepared as they could be. Pre-COVID, we were looking at, typically those crises being hurricanes, floods, wind damage, power outages, coastal erosion, even droughts for our farmers, and snow and ice, all of which typically cause property damage or crop damage. But now, in the past year, we have definitely learned that biohazards also play a role, and that we need to plan for these biohazards, which can threaten human health and the environment through biological components. This is a pretty, a glimpse of the different ways that COVID has affected businesses, from having to pivot and embrace to a new way, reduced income, having to streamline our operations, minimize supply chain interruptions because, this wasn't a localized event. It was, obviously a global event. Working with reduced workforce, and still today working with labor supply issues, right? I think, it's well known that especially in the tourism industry, but in all businesses, that we're having a hard time filling those positions. We actually had a job fair yesterday here on Chincoteague, and almost every business on this island is looking for help, be it summer help or long-term full-time employment. But the number of people walking in the door looking for those jobs isn't there to support what the needs are. How much time we invested in looking for new ways of funding our businesses, marketing, communicating completely differently, but we've also developed new skills, right? There's been positive sides to this too, that we've developed new skills. How many of us knew what a Zoom meeting was and had a screen share a year and a half ago? We've had the opportunity to upskill our employees, provide them new roles and new expectations and trainings. So, we've had lots of different ways, and this is just a glimpse, of just some overall components. And we've learned how to cope with COVID and how to, get from day to day, but this is also our opportunity to learn how to thrive. We need to be proactive and prepared for the next natural or health crisis that arises. We've spent a lot of time learning new ways of doing things and developing new skills, but we need to continue that momentum to be better prepared for the next event that takes place. Whether it's a weather event or a health crisis, that event is going to happen, and it's going to come as unexpectedly as the last one did. Believe it or not, hurricane season started May 15th this year. Usually it begins June 1st, and they are expecting that we will have more named storms this year than ever before, and that in this area we'll have more severe storms than in previous years. And are we prepared for that? And although we have reacted and adapted to what COVID has given us, we should not value that short-run efficiency and success that we've had and that we've learned how to manage over being resilient. So resiliency in a business standpoint, there's different resiliency definitions based on, Jessica talked yesterday about coastal resiliency, and that definition, although very similar, it differs a little bit. So resiliency for business is its capacity to absorb stress, recover critical functionality, and thrive in altered circumstances. And having that resiliency plan helps you react faster in a systematic approach, implement resiliency plans to return to those critical business functions and return to that new normal sooner than businesses that may not have a business resiliency plan in place. As you can see with this graph, you know, both a resilient company and a non-resilient company can perform at the same level until there's an issue, you know, noted here with shock. But a resilient company will have a lower impact, a higher recovery speed, and a greater recovery extent than its you know, non-resilient partner. But there are ways to build resilience, and you know, there's lots of resources out there now, a lot of resources that have just been created through the past pandemic, and building resiliency isn't quick and it's not easy. You know, it's a planned process where you have to evaluate your business and look at what the different threats are to your business and how to then plan to minimize the risk and minimize the damage, and how to get back to full functionality, or at least critical functionality, quicker. There are many resources available. This is actually one resource that Jessica presented yesterday in her presentation. Is a tourism business resilience self-assessment, although the questions that are in there really can benefit any business. It gives you the opportunity to answer several questions as far as vulnerability, business planning, disaster preparedness, continuity of operations, communication, resources, and assistance. And gives you a score, and it sort of helps you then look at where your weaknesses are and where your strengths are, and can help you start building that plan. And I'll put these links in the chat once I'm done. Also, Jessica and Stefan from ANPDC, they have created a resiliency resource database. It's available on Google Docs, and it's going to be a live list of resources, both local, state, regional resources, reports, surveys, things of that nature, just to help each business find some tools to you know, benefit them in that process. And then back in 2019, the Shinketig Chamber actually had started a 3-part business resiliency workshop series presented by Brian Rush, who is our Director of Emergency Services for the town of Shinketig. At that point in time, obviously, we were looking at business resiliency as far as that pre-COVID list of, you know, what happens when we have a hurricane, what happens when we have flooding, what happens if we have extended power outages, or, you know, something happens to the causeway and people can't come to Shinketig. And obviously, but his workshop series was going to focus on evaluating those natural disasters and helping each business individually prepare a step-by-step process, business resiliency plan, and learn about the different resources that are available to us in those situations. Our second workshop was actually canceled because it was planned during when the pandemic was gaining strength in this area back in the early 2022 or 2020. But we are excited to be hosting this event again. We're going to start from the beginning because a lot has changed, but we're hoping to have in-person training beginning in the fall of 2021. And we're going to, again, have probably at least a 3-part series, you know, understanding how to pre-plan and mitigate, how to build that risk assessment and that plan, and learn about the different resources that are available. And he'll bring in different speakers, and we'll you know, help each business you know, build their resiliency plans. So we'll definitely have more information about that when we have it, and with dates and more concrete information. But if you're interested in participating or learning more, you can definitely email Evelyn or myself, and we'll be happy to make sure that you get that information when it does become available. The Chamber is included in the resiliency resource database, but these are a few pages that we have created on our website to help and support our business community. We have a resource page, a business resiliency page, where we have hosted the presentations that Brian did for us, and PDFs and information from our first workshop series. We have a large employment opportunities page where we're listing any jobs that we know of in our community that are available, as well as Mrs. COVID resource page. And this is our contact information. So if you have any questions, you know, after today, we're always here to help and to, you know, give you any resources we can. So does anyone have any questions? All right. Well, if not, I think Sarah Barbin is up next from the Eastern Shore of Virginia Chamber of Commerce, and I'll turn it back over. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Joanne. That was wonderful. And I love the resources that y'all have on your specific website. I'll definitely add those to the database. I think that's a great asset that the full page has. And I think also the Eastern Shore might have some, but just being able to go right to your locality site. I know Chincoteague Chamber is obviously geared towards Chincoteague, as it is in the name. So it's nice to see that folks living on the island can go right there and kind of see what's available. So thank you for taking part, and thank you for sharing all that information. I'm looking forward to these fall trainings. Definitely want to hear what they have to say and learn about that. I'm sure it's going to be a lot of great information there as well.
And we welcome everybody. It's you know, definitely not going to be just for our chamber membership. You know, we typically, the chamber, you know, that's our support base and who we reach out to, but we realize that everyone can benefit from these kind of opportunities, and we definitely welcome anyone to participate, whether, you know, anywhere on the shore. So
absolutely, that's what I was going to say. Yeah, they're open to everyone, and we they'll be advertised, and we look for, hopefully by then, you know, we won't be constrained by crowd size and limitations of that nature. And the presenter Brian really felt that in-person meetings would be more beneficial than Zoom meetings. There would be more interaction, and that's why we wanted to wait until we could accomplish that. So we're looking forward, and we hope to see all of you and many more there.
Definitely, I agree. I'm ready for some in-person trainings, meetings, workshops, anything. It'll be great to get back to in-person. It's definitely a different feel on Zoom, and Zoom can, what do they say, Zoom fatigue. It is very real, more so in COVID than it was in online grad school. So I'm sure that we've all felt it. Wonderful. So Sarah Barbin with the ESVA Chamber, she's going to present a bit on some of the information that we learned during the resiliency roundtables earlier in the year. And I will let you take it away, Sarah. Thank you.
Thanks, Jessica. Good morning, everybody. Thanks for being here. One of the things that we did earlier in March is a lot of the members that you see here on your Zoom screen are part of what is called the Ready, Set, Go task force, which is a task force that was put together to figure out what business owners experienced during COVID and what their needs will be going forward to help them be resilient for a post-COVID world. And initially, we sent out a survey to lots of different people on the shore, business owners and leaders, and we got lots of responses from that. And then we held 4 roundtables in early March, and we got a lot of feedback from that, from business owners, those in like community development. We talked to aquaculture and agriculture, those in business services, and we gathered a lot of really great information from those people. And so I just wanted to share a few key takeaways from that with you all. One of the things that we heard the absolute loudest was that customer service training is very necessary. And obviously that is being addressed with help from the Chincoteague Chamber and the AMPC and the college. So we are checking that one off the to-do list. And then one of the other things that we heard loud and clear is that broadband is a big issue here on the shore. And I know that our chamber is doing some work around it, and so are many other people on the task force. That's one thing we're keeping our eye on, is how to help the shore continue to expand broadband access for everyone. And then another issue that we're working on is transportation is always an issue for the workforce. You know, workers being able to get to their workplace. You know, if you live in Temperanceville, it might be hard for you to work down in Cape Charles, even though there are jobs open there. So that was something that we heard loud and clear, is that transportation is an issue. We also heard a lot of feedback about childcare and affordable housing, and how those are barriers to the workforce. And then what we talked about a lot was how the college can partner to make sure that we have a healthy, robust, resilient workforce by ensuring that they have the skills that employers need them to have. So a few of the educational skills that continuously came up were making sure that our future workforce has good communication skills. People need additional training on social media so that businesses can hire people to maintain their social media pages and their reputation management, like Christy was talking about. You know, not all business owners have the time where they can do that themselves, but they might want to hire somebody to do it for them. And we currently need more people skilled in that area. And then technology was another big area where, again, you know, employers might not know everything they need to about technology, but they'd like to bring in workers who are skilled in tech and can help them fill that area. We heard a lot about needing workers with more administrative skills. So, you know, basic office skills, everything from knowing how to dress appropriately, knowing how to answer a phone properly, and, you know, have good phone etiquette, to QuickBooks, bookkeeping, and more complex administrative skills like that. And another thing that we heard was we need to have education around helping the future generation feel like they can open businesses. So teaching them the small business skills, from how to start a business, how to do your taxes, marketing, all of that, so that, you know, we can encourage more entrepreneurs here on the shore. And then we heard a lot about needing hospitality training, and, you know, making sure, because hospitality and tourism is such a large part of our economy, and helping future employees know, or the future workforce know, that hospitality is a career, and then giving them the skills so that they can make hospitality their career and succeed and thrive. So that was a lot of what we heard about. Another challenge that we heard loud and clear, and I know several people have touched on this already, is just finding workers and being able to retain them. And obviously that's a bigger issue now than it has ever been before, but there was a lot of discussion around how finding workers has always been a challenge on the shore, because there just isn't a deep enough workforce bench. So there was a lot of discussion and a lot of thinking around how to improve that challenge for our employers and make sure they have a deeper bench of skilled employees, which is where we're hoping, you know, all of us partnering with the college will help build a, you know, really strong skilled workforce that can fill those positions and, you know, stay on the shore and stay in those jobs. So I think those were our major key takeaways. Anybody on the task force is welcome to let me know if I missed anything.
Sarah, I think you did a great job on touching on all of those major highlights and aspects. We do have quick reference guides touching on some of the things that she mentioned. Those are going to go out in the follow-up emails to registrants as well. And again, I believe, Sarah, I think you mentioned this already, but you can always reach out directly to these chambers as well as the Tourism Commission and any of the presenters on here today.
Yes, and I will put my contact information in the chat, just like Chrissy did. And the other thing that I will say is, one that I forgot to mention is that there was a lot of discussion around how e-commerce really helped businesses survive through COVID. And the participants felt that there needed to be more training around e-commerce. And the ESVA chamber will be doing a lunch and learn on that. So if anybody wants to spread that information around, or I'll make sure it gets out to people. That is one concrete thing that we're doing to, that is actionable out of those roundtables. And obviously, this training that you're in today is one of the big next steps and key things that came out of the Ready, Set, Go task force.
Thank you, Sarah. And that reminds me, I'm glad you mentioned that, Sarah, both to you and Joanne and Evelyn. I'm happy to include dates or save the dates or reminders about any of these events coming up so that we can spread the word on our end as well. So happy to share that information as you have it.
Thank you.
All right. So next we have Ashley Mills. She's the regional planner with the ANPDC, and she's just going to touch on the hazard mitigation plan, which is very relevant to what we're talking about, and it's also currently being updated. So Ashley, go on ahead.
All right. Let's see, is everyone seeing my screen? Okay, so again, hi everyone. My name is Ashley Mills. I'm the regional planner here for ANPDC and the project lead for the 2021 Hazard Mitigation Plan update. The plan gets updated every 5 years. The last update was in 2016. Today I'm gonna just provide a brief overview on what the hazard mitigation plan entails. I'll discuss the benefits of creating a plan, review key details on meetings and public involvement. And lastly, I'm going to discuss our current efforts and where we're at in the planning process. Okay, so planning for hazards reduces loss of life and property by minimizing the impact of disasters, whether it be natural, human caused, or technological. After state, local, and tribal governments identifying natural disaster risks and vulnerabilities common to the area, long-term strategies are developed to protect people and property from these risks. These mitigation plans are actually the key to breaking the cycle of disaster damage and reconstruction. Addressing conditions in the communities such as household income, language barriers, access to transportation, and vulnerable populations help communities to become more resilient in the aftermath of a disaster. So of course, the best reason to create a hazard mitigation plan is to keep residents safe and accounted for, as well as to ensure your community's infrastructure and economy is able to bounce back as quickly as possible after a disaster event. The Robert T. Stafford Disaster Relief and Emergency Assistance Act legally requires state, local, tribal, and territorial governments to adopt a FEMA-approved hazard mitigation plan in order to receive certain types of emergency disaster assistance. So one example of this disaster assistance is the Hazard Mitigation Grant Program, or the HMGP. This grant assists communities in rebuilding a better, stronger, and safer way to become overall more resilient. After a presidentially declared disaster, this grant provides funding to help rebuild communities in a way that mitigates future disaster losses. The program funds a wide variety of mitigation projects, some of which are listed here. Many communities here on the Eastern Shore have utilized this grant after a declared disaster, usually by elevating structures above the known flood levels, and also a lot of drainage improvement projects. So the HMP steering committee meetings are held the second Tuesday of each month. Committee members consist of representatives from each locality, the Berkeley group, and ANPDC. We highly encourage the HMP representatives from each locality to attend these meetings, and most of the time they do. The meetings are currently being held virtually and are open to the public. Information to access these meetings you can find on the ANPDC website, which I have listed on the last slide, and I can also put in the chat. You can also find summaries and presentations from each meeting on there as well. The steering committee meeting has recently been focusing on mitigation goals and strategy development. We also encouraged a lot of roundtable discussions to allow localities to voice their questions, concerns. They provide us with a lot of information needed for the plan update during those discussions too. So the AMPDC has also conducted several one-on-one locality meetings with town and county representatives all over the shore. Over the last few months, we've met with nearly all the participating localities in both Accomack and Northampton counties. The focus of these one-on-one meetings has been to verify the census data, review and update critical infrastructure, and also to describe any major progress in programs or construction since the last update in 2016. Due to the recent COVID-19 outbreak, we have added a chapter regarding the risk of future pandemics. Each locality also has a section to discuss the pandemic as well. And in those sections, the localities have provided information on how their town or county has responded to the pandemic and their plan to be prepared in the case of a similar future event. Localities provided information on how services and businesses were able to remain open and resilient throughout the pandemic. Mostly this included following the CDC guidelines on masks and social distancing, obviously a lot of plexiglass, outdoor seating, expanding online presence, much more. The Berkeley group is currently helping the AMPDC update chapters that are outside of the individual locality chapters, which is what the AMPDC is doing. They provide critical data using FEMA's HAZAS program, which estimates risks from natural disasters and helps to create actionable risk information that increases community resilience. Berkeley Group and AMPDC have been working with localities to develop and adopt mitigation strategies and goals through polls and surveys, and that usually all takes place during our steering committee meetings. Over the next few months, we're going to begin updating the National Flood Insurance Program and the HMGP program participation. And then we'll begin analyzing and updating HAZAS data to create the main findings for each of the localities' chapters. We're hoping to have some final drafts ready to present at the next steering committee meetings coming up in June and July. The last one was just actually yesterday. It was pretty productive, but the next one will be in June. In August, we'll submit the plan and wait for approval from the Virginia Department of Emergency Management and FEMA. Once the plan's approved, we'll need at least one locality to formally adopt the plan by February 9th. The plan's a public document, so you can find it, like the current plan and former plans, on the AMPDC website. Here are just a few of the websites that I've talked about. You can find some valuable information and additional resources on the current plan, FEMA HMP guidelines, the Hazard Mitigation Grant Program, and VDM. If anyone has any questions, here's my email. I'll also put it in the chat as well. And that is all I have.
Thank you so much, Ashley. Does anyone have any questions for her, for any of the other presenters? Any thoughts about the HMP? Any new news? Has it something new to you, or have you been involved with it at all? All right, Ashley, thank you so much. I'm glad it's being updated. I know you're doing a great job. And of course, we will look forward to seeing the final and complete update when it's fully approved by FEMA and the other partners. And definitely glad to know that a COVID chapter or pandemic chapter is being included in some details there, because as we see, there's quite a bit to learn from the past year and quite a lot of things we can actually do, as Joanne mentioned, to kind of mitigate and cope with it. So I'm going to pause the recording and call for about a 10-minute break. We're moving right along. So get a coffee, get a snack, stretch it out, get some fresh air. It's a beautiful day out there, and we will see everyone in 10. We are gonna continue on with Patrick Tompkins and Scott Hall from the Eastern Shore Community College. They are gonna talk a bit about training opportunities. So I will hand it over to y'all, gentlemen. Thank you.
Great. I'm going to share my screen here, and just give me a second. And can you see the presentation?
We can. You are in the regular mode. If you just want to hit the little present up there. Perfect.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Great, thank you. Good morning, everyone, and thanks to you for being here, and a special thanks to Jessica and all those who put this valuable conference webinar together. My name is Patrick Tompkins, and I serve as the Chief Workforce Officer and the Chief Academic Officer at the college. And I'm here with my colleague, Scott Hall, and I'll let him introduce himself. We're going to kind of tag team on this. So Scott, can I turn to you?
Thanks, Patrick, and good morning, everybody. On this beautiful Eastern Shore Wednesday, glad to have everybody here. See everybody here. As Patrick said, I'm Scott Hall, and I'm the Workforce and Business Solutions Officer here at Eastern Shore Community College, which is your Eastern Shore Community College. As we're talking about resiliency, which is also sustainability. We as a college, about 18 months ago, right after Patrick and I both first started here at the college, we started, that dialogue here internally about how do we as a college and we as a community ensure that, we're relevant and resilient, and we've got a sustainable model in this changing world, and how do we not just identify where we want to go, but how do we get there? What's going to be our roadmap to guide us along the way? And for ESCC, that master roadmap is really our culture of yes, which stands for your Eastern Shore. Patrick, next slide. Yes is yours, but it's also ours. It's mine. It's the Eastern Shore is everybody. And adopting this culture requires that each of us takes ownership of our Eastern Shore. Here at the college, we look at it really as having three primary legs to the school. And yes requires a culture of hospitality, not just customer service, but hospitality and making people feel welcome. And part of hospitality also is inclusion. How do we include everybody? How do we make sure that people feel comfortable being part of our community? And the third and strongest leg is accountability. If we're going to take ownership of our community, of our Eastern Shore, of our Eastern Shore Community College, it requires that we hold ourselves accountable and we hold each other accountable for what's going on out there, how we operate, and how we cooperate to make the college and the shore the best that it can be. And so with that, I'm gonna, after we had these series of Ready, Set, Go workshops, we've come up with some responses, and I'll go ahead and pass it back to Patrick to progress some of those. Patrick?
Thank you, Scott. That was terrific. And so, folks, you'll see this yes in almost everything we do, and it's an affirmative brand, and also it's something that Scott will tell you that literally every day we call this out. When we help a student move, when we get somebody registered, when we do something for a colleague. So like I say, you'll see us building this brand. So I'm going to cover some things that we're doing now and some new things, and then Scott's going to talk about things that we are going to be working on proceeding. So this is our vision of the college, and this is our vision statement. And what I want to emphasize here in relationship to the resiliency training is our vital link in the economic and cultural enrichment of our communities. And I so appreciate those who've gone before in the presentations mentioning the importance of the college in partnering with you all and helping you achieve your goals. I think together we are definitely stronger. I want to talk just briefly about what a community college is, because I recently was in a meeting with someone who is on our board and has been connected to the college for several years and didn't know some pretty basic stuff. And that's not that person's fault, it's ours, because obviously we didn't do a good job of sharing that. We're what is known as a comprehensive community college, and that means that we offer programs in almost across the board areas. So we have college transfer, and I think folks are pretty familiar with that. With workforce, in a way, everything we do is workforce, because we want folks to be able to get employed as a result of their education, whether it's here or after they get a bachelor's or a master's. But we also use workforce in a very particular term, and that's the Workforce Development Services Unit. And Scott is our Workforce Business Solutions Officer. But we have other workforce programs that are in the academic side. So for example, we just recently completed a nurse aid program. And in that program, there were about 8 students, and about half of them were in what we called our workforce program, and half were in our academic program. And they probably couldn't have told you which side they're in. It's the same program. It leads to the same certification. What's different is inside baseball. It's registration and financial aid and enrollment, how we handle the back office processes. But it starts in the same place and it leads to the same place. We do continuing education. I have a sticky note on my monitor to talk to Scott about a yoga class. We can do things with art. We can do, we try not to compete with the Academy for Lifelong Learning, but we also do continuing education, for example, teacher certification and for training folks in agricultural or water safety. We have a very strong adult education program, and adult education has 2 wheels. One is the high school equivalency diploma that used to be called GED. And that is for folks who have not completed high school, and they can get an equivalency diploma by completing programs with us. And then the other is a very large English as a second language program. And so you all are very well aware of non-native speakers on the shore. An interesting thing in our ESL program is it's heavily Hispanic, which doesn't surprise anyone. It has a noticeable Haitian element, but one of the things that's interesting about it is it's skewed tremendously female. So we're serving female non-native speakers, but the male non-native speakers, we need to do a better job of connecting with. Our programs range from about 2 weeks to 2 years. So we have folks who can come in and you can even do some of our online trainings, you could even do in a day or a weekend. Some of them lead to certifications. And then of course, we have the associate degree programs. We have a vision for what we call contact to career. We want to connect every ESCC learner with a workplace learning experience. So I just want to pause here for a second. And if you nodded off while I was droning on aimlessly, I want to try to call your back to attention, because this is really important. And it's where we're going to need your help, and it's where we can help you. So we want to connect every ESCC learner with a workplace learning experience. You may be surprised to know that we serve about 1,400 students a year across all of our programs. And some of them are in work and some of them aspire to work. We know that students who work are more likely to graduate. They have higher GPAs. They're more likely to be employed after they leave the college. And so that's why workplace learning is very important. Also goes back to what has been talked about earlier, where the workforce isn't always ready for work. So we have learners at our college, and while they're here, we have an obligation not just to teach them history or teach them IT, but to prepare them for the world of work. And that can be done in 3 ways. Credit for prior learning. So I just saw Butch Williamson of A&N yesterday, and we're going to work with some of his employees to get them associate degrees, and we'll give them credit for prior learning for the technical skills that they have. Credit while working. Most of our students are employed while they attend college. And so we can give them credit for that. and layer on top of it some workplace development experience. So we can work with them to develop a resume. We can have them interview their employer. We can have them write a reflective piece. And in that, we can ask them to reflect on customer service, reflect on leadership, reflect on collegiality, and then working while learning. And that is most commonly our internships. And we need your help with those internships. We need you to be able to accept some of our students for internships so that they can get this workplace learning experience. And we're looking for different ways to fund that. It's always best when the employer can fund it. And Wallops, for example, does that, and the Bay Bridge Tunnel, but small employers oftentimes cannot fund it. And so we're looking to see if we can get some resources to support that so that all of the employers on the shore have an opportunity to participate in this program. And all of the employers on the shore provide an opportunity for our students to be able to get workplace learning experience. So we, as has been mentioned, we've been very close with the chambers and the Planning District Commission and Cape Charles Main Street in learning what are the needs on the shore, and in response to the surveys and the roundtables, we developed some new programs. One that I think is really important is this workplace office professional. Most of our students are employed while they're with us, and many of them will switch jobs while they're with us as they accrue new skills. So we designed these academic programs that are very short, but that focus on workplace learning experience, workplace learning skills, such as communication, basic math, computer skills, because the surveys and the roundtables told us that entry-level employment skills are really important. So many of our students will be in college transfer programs, and we can at the same time have them in these programs so that while they're working towards college transfer, they're still learning some employment skills that they'll be able to apply while they're at the college. We just started an IT support program. This is something we collaborated with Google on, and colleges and universities across the country. It is a standardized curriculum. We are not able to change anything about the curriculum, nor are any of the other colleges and universities. When students complete this curriculum, I think it's 16 credits, they can do it in a semester. When they complete that curriculum, they are certified as a Google IT support technician. And so they can work anywhere in the country without ever leaving the shore. We've brought back a web page development program, and that emerged in the roundtables and the surveys as businesses need some support with that. And this was mentioned a little bit earlier in the context of social media as well. And then we are launching an unmanned systems program, and that will launch in June. And we anticipate that growing with the agricultural and aquacultural areas on the shore, but also residential and some others. So I'm going to turn it back to Scott to finish us out.
All right. Thanks, Patrick. And I think as you see, as you've heard from Patrick, we are doing our best to incorporate that culture of yes in responding to the needs of the business community, and as well as the residents of the shore, in creating these new programs. Sorry, Freudian slip there. Programs. One of the things we've learned, though, is especially in this today's world of higher education and being a state agency, is that financially we're not always able to create a new program here at the college itself for students to attend in person. So we're really are fortunate to have online training options. Online, not just for our academic classes, existing academic classes, but also online classes with our partner, Ed2Go. They provide a variety of self-paced and instructor-led programs in business, IT and computers, healthcare, different languages that are geared towards various professions. For example, there's a Spanish for healthcare professionals course. that we set up with Eastern Shore Rural Health and Ed2Go, so that the staff and up there at Rural Health is able to better communicate with their patients. American Sign Language, again, very important, but it's just a course that we're not able to provide right now at the college, but we have an online partner available. There are some hospitality classes available as well. Again, it's about providing affordable options for our learners, and it's not just for the students, for the businesses as well. So if anybody has any questions about these programs, you can go to ed2go.com/es, or just contact myself or Patrick. And also many of these programs are eligible for financial assistance through the Workforce Investment Opportunities Act. So normally online programs like that are paid for by the employer or out of the learner's pocket, but we do have the opportunity to provide assistance to the student as well. Again, our goal is to get the learner across the finish line. And as we do that, Patrick's referred to some of the programs we've implemented as a result of the roundtables that were held earlier this year. And we have several new additional programs in the pipeline. We spoke about entrepreneurship. We actually kind of piloted an entrepreneurship program earlier this year as part of our partnership with the reentry cohort at the Eastern Shore Regional Jail, and learned some good lessons from that. And so we're going to be rolling that out later this year as a standing program here from Workforce Services. Marine engine repair and marine technologies. Again, another big item that came out of the Ready, Set, Go roundtable. It's just the lack of qualified, or the shortage of qualified marine service technicians here on the Eastern Shore. So we'll start out with engine repair, both small engine as well as inboard, and then build off of that to include fiberglass repair, marine, electronics, the whole gamut. Construction trades. Again, we piloted this with the reentry cohort at the beginning of the year, and I've been looking actually for a Spanish language instructor. As Patrick talked about the diversity of the Eastern Shore and the significant Hispanic population, I felt it's beneficial, and again, keeping with that yes culture, that we're able to serve our students when possible in their native language. And so we'll be starting a core construction fundamentals class with a Spanish language option later this year. Customer service, huge demand. And I'm working my new workforce registrar actually came to us after 7 years working with Verizon corporate in their customer service. So she's working with me to put together a customer service program here at the college, as well as social media marketing, and you can see the bookkeeping and grant writing. Again, we're trying our best to come up with the in-person programs here at the college that meet the needs of the businesses as well as the learners, while also balancing that with the realities that we're all facing. So if you have any other ideas, suggestions, recommendations, please don't hesitate to contact myself or Patrick. Again, Patrick, you can go on to the last slide. We are your Eastern Shore Community College, and we are here to serve you. We're here to serve the entire community, and we're here to make sure that the Eastern Shore is able to continue into the future on a prosperous path and well-educated path. We avoid using the word training, to be honest with you, because we think that short undersells really what we do and what our learners are accomplishing. You know, whenever somebody comes to the college for a class, we are teaching them, and that's our goal. So with that, I will end.
Scott, let me jump in. Yeah, let me jump in with one final comment, please. So one of the things, two things I'd like you to take out of this presentation. One is that we are responding to the needs of the shore, and the process has been wonderful for us to get the commentary and suggestions from the employers and the residents of the shore about what would benefit. But we are a very small college. We're the smallest college, community college in Virginia by a long ways. And so we can't do everything. And frankly, literally every week, somebody sends me an email and tells me what kind of program we can start or what program we should start. And we're going to remain responsive to the shore, but we have decided to focus our efforts and not to run around to every little thing. So this is our map for the next 6 to 9 months. And we may respond to some emerging need during that time, but mostly we're going to focus on these programs, and we're going to stand them up. We're going to make sure that they're of high quality. We're going to assess their efficacy and their impact, and stay focused. So that's really an important thing, I think, is that we're responding to the community, and we have a plan, we're focused, and we're going to execute it at a high level. So thanks a lot. And I'll stop sharing screen, Jessica.
Wonderful, Scott, Patrick, this is fabulous. I've loved hearing about all the opportunities. I love the idea of the Work to Learn program. Definitely would love to have some side conversations with you on that, and maybe brainstorm some ideas with some of the efforts we're doing here, as well as the grant writing program, because as you know, and maybe not everyone on the call, but I do a lot of grant writing. So it's awesome to see that you guys are offering that in the next, what you said, 6 to 9 months there as one of the programs. I think it'll definitely help increase the capacity for counties and localities as well to start doing that. It's definitely a great skill. And coming from a psychology background, I've learned that grant writing and treatment plan writing are quite similar. So it's definitely a skill that can kind of cross over various fields. So that's awesome. That's one of my favorites. Are there any questions or comments, thoughts, 50 programs you want to throw at Patrick right now?
Y'all are doing great work. Thank you.
Well, thanks, Joanne. And don't, as Scott mentioned, don't be shy about picking up the phone, sending us an email and saying, can you help us with such and such? This is our plan, but it doesn't mean that we aren't still listening.
Well, hopefully, as we get all these folks back in the workforce and trained, and you guys offer these great courses, you get more employees, we get more funding, we expand and keep growing Eastern Shore Community College. It's definitely come quite a long way since I moved here, and that was only 8 or 9 years ago. So definitely leaps and bounds from, I think I know where y'all started, but definitely from where I've seen it, and it's really great to see it grow.
Oh, thanks for that. Encouraging.
Yeah. Carol, Wisconsin, did you have a question? I saw you say hi in the chat there.
Yeah, I just wanted to, I don't know if this is the right time, I just wanted to talk about a project that CCRFR has this summer, and then also just mention the Go Virginia grant, if this is an okay time to do that.
Sure, please.
Okay, great.
Jump
So
on in.
I'm Carol Considine. I'm the Director for Applied Projects at the Institute for Coastal Adaptation and Resilience, which is a mouthful, so we call that ICAR at Old Dominion University. And I'm really excited to see all the things that you guys have going on up here on the Eastern Shore. I'm really excited to see that you're referencing the CCRFR guide to Coastal Virginia Tourism Resilience Assessment. And we actually have a project that's following up on that this summer that we, Yusuf, is also on the call, is leading. And that is a small business web workshop on resilience. And we're also going to develop an online guide. So I agree with you. Everybody's ready to get back together and be in a live setting and learn more. But we feel like that might be an opportunity for your businesses, and we's going to follow up with an email with more information so that we can have businesses from the Eastern Shore that want to participate in that participate, and then the online guide will be something that's available to everyone in the fall. But in addition, I just wanted to mention the Go Virginia grant that we got. VIMS is actually the lead on that Virginia Sea grant with RISE and Old Dominion University. And the title of the grant is Launching a Coastal Resilience and Adaptation Economy. And ODU's part on that is really to build an industry consortium that is related to advancing regional collaboration, both kind of this urban and rural collaboration as we move forward in resilience. We want to increase, want to engage the broader business communities in both regions in the resilience economy, show them the avenues to enter it, what opportunities are available there. We want to work on the growth and diversification of the coastal resilience adaptation sector, and then also prepare businesses for a future with water. So we're going to have some we're going to have 2 breakfast meetings over the next 2 years, kind of looking at what are the impacts of hurricanes, what are the impacts of resilience, I'm sorry, of recurrent flooding. We're going to have also some business resilience training workshops that will be available. And then we're going to have several different committees looking at kind of what are the best practices in this area, what are the opportunities, what are opportunities for private-public partnerships to kind of move resilience forward. The Middle Peninsula Planning District Commission has their Fight the Flood program, which is really based on building resilience in rural areas. And it's a great opportunity for kind of that idea to spread to other rural areas in coastal Virginia. So I was really excited to just be here and see all the faces that are working in this area over on the Eastern Shore. And you'll be hearing much more from us, and Jessica is going to be our main contact. But if we can help with anything else, please let us know. And again, we will be in touch with you as she gets closer to offering that small business resilience training and when the online guide is ready. So Jessica, thanks for the time. If you guys have any questions, I'd be glad to answer them.
Thank you so much, Ms. Considine. It's nice to put a face with the name. I know we've emailed over the past week or 2 here. I am looking forward to this consortium steering committee here and definitely relaying information and kind of being the liaison between that effort that you're running as well as the Eastern Shore here. So as she mentioned, please don't hesitate to reach out. And anything I can't answer or don't know or don't have the quick response to, I will definitely defer to Carol on.
And I'll go ahead and put up my contact information in the chat for everyone.
Thank you. Are there any other questions or comments for Ms. Considine? Thoughts? All right. So I believe I'm going to hand it over to Evelyn and Joanne and let you take it away with Visit Baltimore. I see that Trish and Al are on, and welcome y'all. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jessica. And that good working relationship between the college and us actually is how we found Al and Trish. So Scott actually hooked us up, and we're delighted that it all worked out. So Joanne has an introduction for them, and we'll let them do their thing and tell us all about good customer service after Joanne introduces them.
Yep. It's my pleasure to introduce Visit Baltimore's President and CEO, Al Hutchinson, and Interim Chief Marketing Officer, Trish McLean. Visit Baltimore is the official destination marketing organization for Baltimore, Maryland, and it not only inspires visitation and generates economic benefits for the greater Baltimore region, but serves as a liaison between members, customers, and stakeholders, and provides the necessary tools and information to make stakeholder products and services competitive in the marketplace. Al will discuss the critical role customer service plays against the tourism and hospitality industry. And Trish will share an in-depth look at Visit Baltimore's recent rebranding initiative. They've launched a brand new brand in the midst of a pandemic, and they've received several accolades, which I'll let them talk about through that process. Al and Trish both have extensive bios, and I'll share them in the chat for you while they talk. And if you have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat. We'll answer them at the end of the presentation, or you're welcome to ask them at that time. And with that, I'll turn it over to Al.
Well, Joanne, thank you very much. Good morning to everybody on the Eastern Shore, one of my favorite places in the country. In fact, my wife, but girlfriend at the time, we vacationed quite a bit in Chincoteague. So very familiar with that part of the world, and Nancock and Cape Charles, and some of my favorite places. So know it well, but I really want to give a shout out and thanks to both Joanne and Evelyn for the invite, and also to Scott, who he and I worked together in Virginia Beach back in the day. But my colleague Trish and I just want to share with you how we're approaching some things in Baltimore. And let me just preface everything to say, from the customer service standpoint of what we want to share, and then some of our rebranding, we're not going to be suggesting this is the only way to do it. So we just want to have a conversation with you as colleagues. We're all in the business of driving visitors to our communities. There's a number of different ways to do that, but we want to show you and share with you one approach. And hopefully there's some nuggets you can take away from the presentation that you can use in your businesses, at Eastern Shore Community College, perhaps. We don't own this information. This is our approach. And I think resiliency, which I know is the topic of this conversation, I think that's extremely important right now, because coming post-pandemic, my belief is if you do business the same way you did it before the pandemic, you're going to miss out on a lot of opportunities. All of us have to change the way we approach our business practices moving forward. And if not, the customer is too savvy, too smart, they're going to go other places. And none of us want that, right? So what I want to attempt to do this morning is just share with you a little bit about Visit Baltimore. And then I'll go into a little bit about some customer service approaches that we've implemented here in Baltimore. And you take it and use it where you feel makes sense. And then I'll tee up Trish to talk about our rebrand effort, how we approach storytelling, because I think that's important. So the first thing is, Joanne mentioned it, but we're a 501c6 organization. We're not, Trish nor I work for the city of Baltimore. We're a private entity. I have 38 board members, which is far too many. So 38 bosses, all of them think they know how to do it better than Trish and I. And so that's okay. But this is a picture of our team. But I was looking at this last night, and this just shows you the impact of the pandemic. It's about 20 people on this picture that no longer work at Visit Baltimore, sadly. We went from a team of 65 people. Now we're down to 43. Many of these folks on this screen, great people, no longer work for Visit Baltimore. We went from a $16 million operation down to a $7.6 million operation. We closed our visitor center. We had a satellite office in New York City that we shut down. It's been, we've been decimated as an industry, and I know you guys feel some of that pain on the Eastern Shore as well. But great people, but we're a much smaller, leaner organization. We'll talk a little bit about that from a customer service standpoint. Trish. So here's some of the good news story prior to the pandemic in Baltimore. We had about 27 million visitors that came to see us in calendar year 19, spent about $6 billion. We are arguably the second or third largest industry in Baltimore City, and that's hospitality. A little more than 86,000 people were employed in this industry. So it's a big workforce development engine. And just in the city alone, 19, the city collected about $312 million in tax revenue just from visitor spend. So we are a big player in the community, and we're hoping to get back to that level at some point. But you'll notice on this next slide, it just shows how this pandemic has really impacted our industry. I know you're reading your trend lines and essentially saying we're not going to get fully recovered to 2024 to pre-pandemic numbers. Here in Baltimore, We lost more than $7 million in revenue that I mentioned. How our budget was cut. But then the convention center, which is the largest in the state of Maryland, which we sort of do the sales and marketing for, just in calendar year 20, our convention center lost almost $200 million in revenue, which we can't replace, unfortunately. And that was a big loss for us. So we're steadily looking at how do we recoup from that. So with that said, I just want to talk to you a little bit about, I think from a customer perspective and also from my employee perspective, all of us got to do more to exceed our customer expectations. It's not back, everybody's talking about how do we get back to normal? I don't know if that's possible, but we have to get back to a different place and do it better than we've done it in the past. So I just want to share with you some thoughts that you may want to consider moving forward as we look at customer service. And I think the one place that we start or should start is, you're looking at your destination over on the Eastern Shore, whether it's Chincoteague or Nancock, Cape Charles, all the great communities there. When you look at it from a traveler standpoint, the traveler has a lot of different choices now. They do not necessarily have to come to the Eastern Shore. They can go other places. So the question is, what are we going to do? What will you do to make yourself different? And I think customer service has always been important, but I think pre-pandemic, it's going to stand out even further. And we need to look at how do we create these positive experiences for our visitors, but also for our employees. And how do we do it so when visitors come see us, they leave, they go on social media, tell all the great stories about what you're doing on the Eastern Shore, what you're doing in Chincoteague Island, because what we want are people to go back home, tell their family and friends that Chincoteague is a must-see, or Nancock is a must-see, Cape Charles is a must-see. But if we don't do it the right way, because social media is so powerful, we won't get those repeat visits. People will end up going other places. So when you think about that, the question that I always think about when customer service is some people and some companies, they do it exceptionally well. You think about, and we know all this from these 4 groups. Chick-fil-A is a great example of great customer service delivery. And even during the pandemic, when you couldn't go into a Chick-fil-A, the line was wrapped around the building and we didn't complain. We stood in that line and stayed in the lines in our cars and we waited. But as they reopen, we're going to go in lunch hour, jam pack, and we'll continue to go to Chick-fil-A. On the retail side, Nordstrom's the same. Great customer service. They exceed the customer's expectation. Southwest Airline has built their model on service delivery. And in the hospitality space, Four Seasons is always known as that hotel that delivers experiences that are special. And so I think the question that we should have, those of us on this call, is how do we get to this model? Why do these brands stand out? And how can we sort of emulate what they've done? But there are also some disruptors. What we cannot afford to do moving forward, whether you are an insurance company, a restaurateur, a hotelier, a community college, we have to make sure that our attitudes are in the right spot. We're not disrespectful for people because of look, the way they speak, the way they dress. That's going to be very important. Disabilities, age, that's going to be really key. But those are disruptors right now because people, they recognize when you're not being true and you're not being right, and that news spreads really well. The long lines, how do we get people to move quicker? Because right now we're in an economy, a tourism economy where people are very impatient and they need it right now. So I think moving forward, as you reopen your businesses, you think about it, how do I move people through my operation quicker? And it's no question we need to have a clean experience. We may not have new, it may not be a new restaurant, it may not be a new business, but I think the expectations from the consumer is it clean? And I think that's going to be important. And then the last piece is, We cannot have slow service now. Again, people are moving too quick. I know here in Baltimore, we're going after that millennial, that Gen Z, Gen Y colleague. And if you have those kids in that age bracket, they move fast. Social media is driving them. So you have to think about in your business, how do you deliver great service and do it in a quick way? Because at the end of the day, it impacts your bottom line. Because if you have these disruptors, folks are going to walk down the street to the next place of business, or worst case, they won't come to the shore. They'll go to your nearest competitor. So a couple things to think about when you're thinking about your customer, but I would even take this a little deeper and include your employee. And all of us, and I'm talking to myself here, that when we show up every day, our customer has to get the best version of ourselves. We can't have an off day. If you're at the chamber and you're dealing with a customer coming in, that person wants to see that smile on your face, feel that smile from your heart. You have to be the best every day. You can't be that C player. You got to be A player every day, because people recognize that. They see it. And it's really, really important that as we work with people, work with our customers, work with our different employees, that we don't come to the table with these preconceived notions about a person. I mentioned, we can sometimes look at a person looks different than we look. They speak maybe a little different than we do. They dress a little different. So do I treat that person a little different? Do I treat them at a lower class? In this new economy, reopening post-pandemic, we can't do that. We have to make sure we level set. Every customer is important. Every employee is important. And we have to come that way. And the last thing is, you have to give your best to everybody every day. And that's really challenging, quite frankly. During the pandemic, all of us, if we would be really truthful, we have good days, we have bad days. I know for me personally, it's been a roller coaster ride. And if someone asks me, are you on your A game every day? And I'm not, but I have to work at being the best, because people recognize that, they see it. And as a leader, and I'm talking to all these folks on the call from a leadership perspective, we have to be the best. We have to deliver the best. There's really no exception. And I think the customer earns that and deserves it, and so does our employees. So when you take it just a little step further, we really believe here in Baltimore that you have to have certain standards. You have to set a very high expectation. It's like I have two kids. They're 25 and 23. And if you have children, sometimes it's not so much what you ask them to do. It's what are you willing to do first? Are you the real example? And I think from a service perspective, whether you own the business, you're a senior leader in the business, you work at the business, it's really not about what you're asking your team to do. It's really about, from a leadership standpoint, what are you willing to do first? Are you willing to lead? Are you willing to do the tough work? I know now in the hospitality industry, I'm talking to some of my hotel GM friends, and they're doing housekeeping because they're short staffed. And that's another example of staff seeing you being in a leadership position. It's really important. But at the end of the day, I think all of our teams, they're really looking at us to really deliver that great service, bring that caring spirit, and come with a very professional place to our work. And people see that, they feel it, and they really act on the way we come. No organization is going to move quicker than the leader. And so I think it's incumbent on all of us as leaders. We set the tone when it comes to service delivery in our organizations. And so this is a really good point, I think, when you're looking at customer service. You inspect what you expect. In other words, we talked about it a little bit, but people really don't care what you say. They don't always do what you say or what you expect, but they're looking at you. They're looking at you, your leadership position. What is the tone you're setting as an organization? Are you present? Do you get there early? Do you do prep work? Are you preparing for the day? I think all that resonates with our customers moving forward, and our customers will continue to come see us. That new visitor will come to our destination if they know we're paying attention to detail. And people are willing to pay a little more if they know they're going to get great service value. So they will do what you pay attention to. And you have to pay attention to the little things, the details. And I would say to you that the competitive advantage is if you do the little things moving forward, you pay attention to details, we will win in the economy. If you don't do those little things, people have too many other opportunities and choices, and they will move on. So just think about this. This is a definition of a good customer service that I think really resonates with where we want to be. Providing timely, attentive, upbeat service, and making sure customer needs, and you can also say your employees' needs, are met in a manner that reflects positively on your company or business. So when you break that down, timely, are you doing things in a timely way? Are you being attentive to your customers' needs? Are we listening to our customer instead of talking to our customer? Are we listening to our employees or our team members, or are we just always talking to them? And I think we have to make those little subtle, nuanced differences if we want to be effective and deliver good customer service. So the question becomes, does this reflect your business? Are you doing this as a business? If you own a restaurant or work at a restaurant, a hotel, any business, a community college, are we really approaching it this way? Upbeat service and making sure the customer's needs are met. And then overall as a destination, really the question is, does this reflect the Chincoteague experience? So when I leave after a weekend visit or after a week visit, do I have this great experience? Or did I have such a lousy experience that the next time I'll go to Ocean City or Virginia Beach or Rehoboth? I think that's how serious this question has to become in our organizations. And it has to be a part of your DNA to deliver good customer service. So it's really three things, and it's very simple that we should think about as you meet with your teammates, you're sitting down, putting your strategies together for the new year. How professional are we? And not just me as a leader, but our entire organization. Does professionalism trickle down throughout the organization? Or do folks just see pieces of it? Maybe they see it from the senior leadership standpoint, but your frontline worker is not distributing professionalism. Or your frontline folks have it and your senior leaders don't have it. Disrespectful, don't talk to folks the right way. Professionalism has to trickle down throughout the entire organization, but it starts at the top. We have to create that tone, that environment. And then from a patient standpoint, are we patient with our people? Everybody grows at a different level. Do we give people the benefit of doubt that work with us? Do we give them a second chance? Or are we really quick to say, you made a mistake and you're out? I think that patience with customers, because, customers, they're going to push us. Sometimes they're not always right, but we have to listen. We have to be patient with the customer. And then the last thing on this one, I think it's extremely important. It's part of the way I try to lead is people first. And I think if you lead from a heartfelt position first, then you go to the head, it's the best way. People need to feel that you care about them. Your customer needs to feel that you care in order to move things forward. So just think about those 3 Ps as you move forward, as you look at your business practices moving forward. Could be hopefully something that can help you moving down the line. And I keep really illustrating the importance of post-pandemic because I really, really think this is critically important, that we have to operate differently. I think about it a lot that, what we did in 2019 was good for 2019. After going through, 14 months of this pandemic, we're all slowly coming back out of it. We got to do things differently. And so I believe all of our teams, and it starts there first. We have to go internal. Your organization, the people, your teammates, they have to really know you care about them. And a lot of folks are dealing with a lot of mental challenges. They may be doing caretaking for a relative. They may have experienced COVID themselves. I think people are at a point that they're going to work in places that they know people care. And our visitors, your customers, will come to see you if they know it's more than just about the dollar, that you really, really care about their experience, and that you really care that they've taken time to come see your destination, or the parents are taking time to send their kids to your community college, or adults decide to go back to school to continue with their education. The customer needs to really know you genuinely care about them. And at the end of the day, we have core values at our organization, and we have 4, but they're all grounded from a place of respect. And I think that's going to be extremely important as we continue to move forward, because people are coming to see you, coming to the Eastern Shore, coming to Chincoteague from all over the world. And everybody comes from a different perspective, different genders, races, faith base. And we have to, if we want to be a really cool destination, we have to be respectful of all people. So this really ties into that last slide, because the really secret sauce here is, if we do what that last slide said, care for our people, care for our customers, come from a place of respect. If we don't do that, this is what happens to us. We lose business. People go other places. Your business loses, you lose, and the destination loses. And it really, your customer, how you bring yourself, how you provide respect. You don't want to be at this, I'm not doing that right thing. We all want to be in the place because we come from a good place. We want to do the must-haves, because if we do all that, we win, we retain that business. But I think the real beauty, if we really approach it from that space of caring for ourselves, our customers, and respect, we gain new customers. Because I think people are searching now for these sort of destinations that maybe they didn't know about, they could adventure, learn about, such as the Eastern Shore. You got a lot of older business you want to retain. That's a good thing. But what about that new customer? And I think if you approach it this way, you can incrementally get some new business. And then just the last thing I'll leave with you is, all of us, we all want to become better people and better destinations and better businesses. And as we continue to think about just service delivery, it's got to be a part of our DNA. And so we have to continue to work, because the destination, you want that to be great service delivery. You want your customers to recognize it, go home and tell their family and friends that you have to come there. But it really all starts from everybody on the shore has to buy into that. So, and if you do buy into it, then the question becomes, are you willing to look at yourself, your team, your business practices, and do something different and do something better? That's the challenge for you. Do you want to get better? Or the other option would be you do nothing, stay the same, stay status quo, or may even go backwards. That's a decision that all of us have to make when it comes to how do we deliver service? Why should we deliver it to change? And if we take heed to some of those little nuggets I shared with you, I think at the end of the day, the decisions we'll make is, we do want to become better. We want our teams to be better. We want our business to improve. We want to drive more people to our communities, to our places of business. And if we make those tough decisions, we all become better, the destination experience becomes better, and we all win. And that's really, at the end of the day, from a service delivery standpoint, it's the way we've tried to approach it in Baltimore. We want to become better. We want to drive more people here. We want to go from 27 million visitors to 30 million visitors. So that's our goal. So just think about that as I close up on the service delivery portion of it, because one of the things I want to transition to is, why did we look at creating a new story at Visit Baltimore and for the city of Baltimore? We're all, I don't care what kind of business you're in, we're all really in the storytelling business. And your story needs to connect with customer service delivery, but your story needs to connect with the people in your community. So about 18 months ago, probably more like 24 months ago now, we went through re-envisioning what Baltimore City means to visitors, what it means to residents, and what it means to the business traveler or the meetings and conventions traveler. And want Trish to really share with you just our process, how we went through it, why did we go through it, and then some of the differences made for our community since we've landed where we've landed. So Trish, I'll turn it over to you.
Thanks, Al. Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for having us. As Al mentioned, I wanted to share the process that we went through to develop a new Baltimore story. And again, it is not the only process that exists, but we found a lot of benefit and value in what we went through. And so wanted to share that with you today. As Al said, it's probably been more like a 2-year journey at this point to tell a better Baltimore story. And one of the things that we found as we entered into this process is we were being kind of quiet as a city. We conducted several robust listening sessions. We got stakeholders together to share with us what makes Baltimore amazing. And through that, we realized we had to speak a lot louder. And we had the voices and the ambassadors in the room to help us do that. And so we were really excited about that process. We ended up launching a 3-pronged approach because again, it's about really securing the pride in the destination, making sure that everyone in the community, everyone on the front lines that are dealing with visitors has that pride in the destination. We also wanted to appeal to our county residents, ensure that not only were they feeling good about Baltimore and all that we have to offer, but they were going to come down and visit us again. And then, of course, messaging to the tourists, especially for the long term, those folks that are planning visits, whether that be for leisure or business or meetings and conventions, to ensure that we're in the consideration set. Are we a destination that you're willing to choose and put on your list as something you want to see and experience over the long term? So just to talk a little bit about process before I show you some of the outcome of the brand, we held brand workshops throughout the summertime where we again brought stakeholders from all around the city, not just people within the hospitality industry, but folks within business, within universities, folks representing different civic organizations. We really wanted to make sure that we were understanding every facet of Baltimore. And not only being a tourism draw, but also people that want to move to Baltimore, want to take a job in Baltimore. What are those things that we could really highlight to appeal to all of those audiences? So in addition to the workshops, we also held one-on-one conversations, more in-depth approaches with everyone from city government to some of our business development organizations. We also surveyed our members and then conducted online surveys as well with potential and past visitors to get to as many voices as we possibly could. This just gives you an idea of what some of those brand workshops looked like. And not only did we want to talk about the tangible benefits of Baltimore, the museums, the culinary scene, all of that, but we wanted to get at the emotional piece as well. What really makes people fall in love with the city, all of the unique differentiators that we have. And we frankly came up with that it's not just the destination, it's the people that make up that destination. So that combination of community and things to do and see is what really came out of the conversations. From our member survey, we really honed in on some of those highlights of what the personality of the city is all about. And so these are just some that came to mind. And diverse, cultural, artistic, all of those were extremely strong motivators in terms of what people thought about from a positive standpoint when Baltimore came to mind. And so from those conversations, from the research, from the analysis, we came up with several brand elements and foundational narratives that we feel are the foundation and scaffolding for all of our messaging moving forward. So on the left-hand side are those foundational elements, the things, the positive messages that came out of the conversations. And as we tied all of that together, we really honed in on 4 storylines that we're promoting and amplifying across all of our advertising. The first is lead with culture. Baltimore is a very diverse city. We have lots of arts, from literary to visual arts to public art. We wanted to make sure that we were getting that message across. And we have a couple of specific target audiences, one which we're calling culture seekers, who will actually plan destinations around a restaurant trail or underground barbecue or seeing literary figures and history. So we really wanted to make sure we were able to hone in on those niche opportunities within that cultural environment. The second foundational narrative is expand history. We obviously have lots of roots to the Star-Spangled Banner with the fort and the flag and all of those historic monuments, but obviously those things are in question these days. And so not only do we want to be able to reference the history that made the city what it is, but we also want to tell a new story. How do we expand on that history? How do we ensure that all of the conversations are being had and being shared? So that's the history part. 3 is embracing contradictions. And this is an interesting one for Baltimore. And if you've ever been and spent time, we have everything from the underground bar that used to be a pharmacy to 4-star beautiful hotels that win awards across the world, frankly. So that sort of dichotomy, that contradiction of place and people and experience is something that we feel is also really unique to Baltimore. And then number 4 is youthful spirit. We are a fun city. We're a city where different opportunities exist. We have a beautiful American Visionary Art Museum, which is filled with art by untrained artists. They do a kinetic sculpture race every year where people build pink poodles and drive them down the street and then into the water. You know, we've got John Waters. We've got so much that's just fun and different and interesting that we wanted to make sure that all of our messaging also had that fun and youthful spirit. And then underpinning all of this is a supporting narrative of affordability and accessibility. We are in a great location in the Mid-Atlantic, especially from a meetings and convention standpoint. We are easy to get to. And when you compare us to some of the other larger cities on the East Coast, we are extremely affordable, whether that be for a family of 4 or for a large meeting and convention opportunity. We have all the same benefits, the walkable downtown, the beautiful waterfront, the great scenic opportunities, and we can do it for all of our visitors at a much more affordable rate. So using all of that information, all those stakeholder conversations, and I mentioned that we were sort of quiet about our city prior to having this experience, we went through several different brand looks and feels. And what we came up with is something that we call internally unapologetic pride. We are a proud city. We're a resilient city. We're growing. We're extending ourselves. We're courageous in terms of picking ourselves up from adversity and starting over as many times as we need to. And so that idea of unapologetic pride is what we really honed in on and created the entire campaign around. So this is how that came to life in our new logo. You may have seen this already, but in the past, our logo was very subtle, very soft, a light blue. Instead, we went with almost this megaphone approach. You know, you can almost see somebody putting their hand down at the B and shouting Baltimore, we're ready to talk about ourselves. Not only is there that unapologetic pride and that loud and boldness, it also almost reflects the architecture of our city. We have those lovely row homes that are iconic throughout the city. And we loved how, the letter forms almost mimic that. And it also reflects a city on the rise, which is where we want to be. And just as sort of a backstory, the letter forms themselves are based on a font called Balto that was actually created in Baltimore by a local artist. So lots of great pieces and parts to convey there. We also pulled together a new color palette, and we really pulled on the city and the colors that you see, whether they be in the public art, within our sports teams, the waterfront. And we honed in on Street Lamp, which is the one on the left, the green, because Baltimore is actually the home of the first street lamp. And so there's a location in downtown Baltimore where that exists. They were this green color. And so again, as part of the storytelling, we really felt that was a unique piece of what we could offer. And it's also a much bolder color than where we were before. And then to build on that sort of community and collaboration, we also made sure that the entire campaign utilized local artists, folks that were up and coming, including author Kondwani Fidel, who's a poet and spoken word artist in Baltimore. He became the lead copywriter on our campaign. We worked with Devin Allen, who is an amazing photojournalistic photographer. He actually just got his second cover on Time Magazine last year. He did a lot of the capture of our models and talent. And then we filled that in with some other Baltimore natives to get some of the scenic shots that we feature in our campaign. And then we also worked to highlight all of our local talent. This helps advance that cultural narrative, the diversity, the artist piece of Baltimore. And again, that intersection of people and place that we want to make sure that we're conveying, because that's really what makes us unique. So you can see here a mix of the folks that we've featured in some of our ads, everyone from artists, designers, restaurant owners, all the people that make Baltimore special. And you can see a little bit of the flavor, just keeping that fun, that foundational narrative that we talked about in terms of all the things that Baltimore has to offer. And we went with a very unique approach to the creative itself, in that we cut out these collage opportunities, because on a tighter budget with less resources, this gives us an opportunity to put together some of those contradictions that we wouldn't necessarily be able to easily capture in a photo shoot. So we can juxtapose an image of a person with a place in the background to come up with how the campaign has started to unfold. So this gives you an example of that, some of the print advertising that we've used, particularly during COVID, where we wanted to make sure that people could see and feel the flavor of Baltimore. But as you'll notice, we also added that message at the bottom: can't wait to welcome you IRL, or in real life. When the time is ready, we're ready for you. This gives you a look at how that then laddered over to our website, which we also relaunched during a pandemic. And obviously we had to make some pivots. Al talked about resiliency, which is, I think, something we all are familiar with from this past year. We have also been expert at adaptability, especially on the advertising side. Obviously with COVID and launching this campaign, right in the beginning of that, we had to make some pivots, pause some of our media spending until it really was safe to welcome folks back. What we did is we shifted efforts initially into supporting our local businesses. So rather than driving visitors from other destinations and other markets into Baltimore when we didn't have a lot that we could offer and it wasn't safe at that time to do so, we focused on small business. How can we support carryout efforts from our restaurants? How can we encourage people within the city or even surrounding counties to come out of the house and just spend their money on the local business? We paused and reimagined a lot of our marketing efforts temporarily. We shifted our PR to virtual programming, events, what some of our members were doing to support community, whether that be feeding out of work employees or converting their distillery into hand sanitizer production. All of those stories we were able to help amplify, in addition to supporting the issues around social justice that were out there last May and continue to be a big part of our conversation. And then we were able to pivot again with some support from the Federal CARES Act to promote safe travel once that was another opportunity to invite people back to the city. So this just gives you a little bit of a snapshot of some of those things that we did. This was the piece I spoke about in terms of building local pride. Local poet Kondwani Fidel created this wonderful poem comparing Baltimore to a crab. We have a hard shell, but once you get inside, there's all sorts of flavor and excitement. We used this messaging to support all of our local initiatives, in City Hall. We had banners. We sent posters to a lot of our stakeholders so they could take ownership of that messaging. And we had ads in our local arts magazine as well as Baltimore Magazine, just showing and supporting local community efforts. This gives you a look at the poster itself, which we developed with the iconic Globe poster shop out of our School for the Arts in Baltimore. We also incorporated welcome messaging on our street poles right through the center of town. And we engaged with the community. Again, there were some difficult conversations happening last year around the murder of George Floyd. We used that opportunity not just to post a Black square, but really to support our Black businesses, amplify the things that they were communicating about. And you can see that here in some of our social media efforts. And we also worked with several artist takeovers to make sure that we could promote and support all of the efforts that they were making within the community. And then I mentioned we also appealed to some of the residents in our surrounding counties. As things began to open up, we really focused on neighborhoods. What were some safe outdoor activities that you could bring your families down to see and do? Created opportunities around parks, itineraries if you were going to come to the city, things to do, to eat, to see. And we promoted all of that with regional print, radio, outdoor, social media, and digital banners. We were also lucky enough to get a sponsorship opportunity with Spot Hero, which is a contactless garage owner who basically offers up discounted garage parking ahead of your visit, which gave people an opportunity to plan out their itineraries and see and do what they could when they come to Baltimore. This gives you a look at some of those itineraries and that creative approach, really again honing in on the things to do, the places to go, and what was safe as we were opening up as a city. And then finally, we did eventually relaunch our tourism campaign. We started in some drive markets, Boston, Philly, New York, and DC in particular. We did pause over the wintertime when we experienced another spike, but this is something that's now going to be coming back as we get into warmer weather. And you can see again how the campaign came to life. And again, that we're ready message when you are. You're not far from discovering something new, meaning not far distance-wise, but also in terms of length of time when we felt like hope was on the horizon and we could come out of the pandemic and return to some normalcy. A couple of other images of some of the creative, again, focusing on the experiences and things to see and do that are unique to our city. And as we move into the summer, we're going to continue to leverage regional visits. We know that leisure is going to be bouncing back prior to meetings and conventions, but we're still wanting to keep our city and destination top of mind. We're still focusing on some neighborhood support, really encouraging our county residents to take advantage of tourism in their own backyards. We also have an opportunity through a state grant to focus on some of our smaller businesses and help amplify what they have going on. And you'll see at the right, Al with one of our partners at the Guinness Open Gate Brewery in Baltimore. As part of National Travel and Tourism Week, we were able to install a logo of the Visit Baltimore structure at the brewery, which we consider a gateway to Baltimore City. And so creating some fear of missing out, some FOMO, getting people to take pictures in front of the logo and share them with friends and encourage people to come on down and visit Baltimore. The second of these structures just went in on Monday at the Inner Harbor in between the World Trade Center and the aquarium. So we're excited that we've already seen people starting to take and post pictures, again, as the weather's getting better. And then as we do start to focus on our drive markets, in particular, Philadelphia, DC, New York, and then eventually expanding out into Boston and down to Richmond, we'll continue with our We're Ready messaging. When you're ready to travel, we're ready for you. We can't wait to see you. And we are investigating just more welcoming message around the DE&I initiatives where we expect to incorporate ambassadors throughout the city to just make sure that everyone feels welcome when they come to Baltimore. So that's kind of the story of our rebrand. It's ever evolving. We continue to add pieces and parts to the campaign itself. And in fact, we just finished a TV spot, which is designed to be almost a music video, again, highlighting the culture and the arts and the local contributors. We had a local singer-songwriter write a song for the commercial itself, and that's going to be launching next week in those drive markets, just really encouraging folks to come down and see what Baltimore has to offer. So with that, I'm happy to take any questions or see if there's anything else that we can share additional information on.
So Trish, before we go to questions, thank you for the presentation. Let me just add a couple comments to share with the group. Everything that we've been attempting to do in Baltimore is all intentional. You know, from a customer service standpoint, it's really intentional the way we approach that, the care that we approach that space with. And then hopefully you've seen with our new storytelling, it's also intentional. We invited people to the table who normally weren't talked to about tourism. And so we had just a wide range of key people. And we wanted also to showcase the local talent. We didn't want to go out and pay money for a model, but we wanted to showcase Baltimore's best and brightest. So that's a part of this storytelling. And then what we're hoping to do with this messaging that you see is to not only use it to drive visitation, but we're hoping to partner with the academic space to help them recruit students to Baltimore using this look and feel. We want to partner with the business community so they can use it to recruit talent. We believe that this is what we call a prismatic approach to telling a story. It's not just about travel and tourism. It's about the goodness and the greatness of the entire destination. So I've been in the destination footprint for 29 years, different cities, but I'm really proud of this work that we've done and the approach we did because it's inclusive. It's a very inclusive storytelling, and we're hopeful that it's going to pay rewards for us as we begin to reopen as a community. So really appreciate the time you guys have given us to share with you both our customer service approach and our storytelling approach. So I'll turn it back over to Joanne and Evelyn, but thank you all very much. And we're open for any questions that anyone may have.
Well, I just want to say thank you so much. I learned a lot. I'm excited. You reinvigorated me. I really like the intersection of people and place concept and terminology. You know, it's like a customer service to me is always like a shot in the arm. You know, you really need it. I mean, we've all been through, you know, tough, and even in good years, we've been through, you know, tough times, and it gets you know, it gets to you. So every now and then you need that little reminder that you need to be on your best A game every day. And you know, as we tell our folks here, you know, in talking about our customers come in and they want to see the ponies. Where are the ponies? Where are the ponies? Well, if you've got 50 visitors in a day, by the time you get to customer number 50 and you've told 49 others where the ponies are, you're not as enthusiastic about it. But it's the first time for them. You know, you need to be as fresh for them as you were at 9 a.m. in the morning telling that first customer. So that's always a challenge for me personally. But I just appreciated it so much and learned a lot, and am anxious to you know, take some of it and use here in the office, but also share with our businesses. So thank you all for your time and what you've done.
So Evelyn, go ahead. I'm sorry, Joanne.
No, go ahead. I was
just going to add, I've been here in Baltimore now for close to 5 years. It'd be 5 years in November. And when I first got here, one of the pushbacks I got from the residents, the local residents, is that visit Baltimore, you all spend too much time talking about the inner harbor and downtown, and you don't talk about my neighborhood. And that's why this look and feel that you see, it's very little inner harbor, it's some, but it's more of a broader Baltimore story. And the position we've taken on that, I believe your number one customer in your destination are your residents. And if you don't engage with your local residents and get them excited and also be inclusive to what you're building, they're going to be the first ones to reject whatever you're trying to do. We don't want another visitor. It's too many people. It's traffic. So we've been spending a lot of time, and Trish knows this, we got battle scars to show you, talking to our community and neighborhoods about the value of travel and tourism and how it all connects, though, to the business community, to academic, to recruiting talent and recruiting businesses. And it's slowly getting some tread on it, and some of our communities get it more than others. But I would encourage you, as you go through this process, don't eliminate talking to your local residents about what you're trying to do. They're extremely, extremely important.
They're your ambassadors in the grocery store when they're behind the visitor, or in front of the visitor. And if they're grumbling about the visitors, the visitor that's standing behind them in the grocery store is going to remember that and take that away, and that's going to be part of their story. Their memory of Chincoteague is, well, they don't really want us there. They grumbled about me in the grocery store, or in line at the restaurant, or whatever it is.
As I buy my 2 cases of beer, and I'm taking
Yeah, Emily, you took the words out of my mouth. I think that ambassador is exactly what we've tried to create with, incorporating these workshops. But one of the other pieces that we did is when we were ready to officially unveil the campaign, we brought all those ambassadors back because we wanted them to feel great about the work that we had created with their help. We also gave them toolkits so that we asked them to share it out via their own social channels, hashtag us, make sure that they were tagging all the folks that had participated so that we aren't the only ones telling the story, but we can really get everybody else in that same storytelling mode and positivity about the community and what we have to offer. It's definitely not something we're done with. As Al said, we continue to have those conversations, and certainly there are challenges along the way. But building that ambassadorship really helps take some of the lift off of the destination.
And something else about customer service that I find, and especially being, with the chamber, and being a part of the chamber, is what I think Al touched on it in the beginning. We're the role model. We're part of the role models here for what customer service should look like, and what it should be, and setting the tone and all of that. And I know years ago when I've been with the chamber, almost continuously since 2001, and early on, and I dealt with tourists a lot more back then. I was, front desk person and fielded almost every question that came in the door, and talked with every guest. And, by the weekend, by Friday, Saturday, I was ready to, go and have dinner out in a restaurant with friends. And conversation as it goes would often come back to work, and well, what did you do this week? Well, I just had these visitors, and they were, and I find myself, well, these visitors were sitting right back here at the next table, and so you can't do that. I was always on edge, because it was great. The week was great. But so I don't go out to eat much in the summertime when we're really busy. But I really have to watch what I say. I can't just say, I can't grumble. That's at home by the fire pit. But you just don't want to. You don't want the people at the table behind you to overhear, anything that that may have been upsetting, or that would give them, a bad feel. So always on our toes.
I think Evelyn and I can definitely second that. And that's working in agencies and local government like we do, customer service. It's also right down at the base. If you're a server at a restaurant, you don't want to go out and either, be bad mouthing or complaining about the customers or the, day at work that day if you're out in public, but you're representing whatever you work for. So whether you're at the next bar over and you're getting sloshed, or you're just venting about your bad day, if folks know who you are, especially in a small town, small community like the Shore, it could definitely resonate and trickle down to folks that you wouldn't necessarily tell or intend to tell. And I want to say also to Al and Trish, thank you very much. This is wonderful. I love, and this is just a small detail, everything was great and very informative, but I love that when you were picking your color schemes, you still somehow tied that right into the history of Baltimore. I think that's really cool. Again, it's a very small detail, but I like that that is how in detail y'all go. And it shows that you pay a lot of attention to every aspect and trying to bring it all together.
Yeah, one thing that, Jessica, to that point that I'll just add, when we went through the process of selecting the creative firm and we invited a number to the table, and this is one thing we got pushback on, we did not select a Baltimore firm. The firm that did this is a firm named Bellwether, and they're out of New York and Philadelphia. But one of the reasons we selected the firm, number one, they're a small boutique company. They're not a big agency. And we had tight budget. We didn't have a lot of money to do what you've seen we've created. So they were small, creative, multicultural, very diverse team led by two women that owned the company. And all that played out, and they were very intentional and they wanted the business. And that was very important to us to partner with, and we had a committee that selected them, not me. But the committee selected them because they bought something different. They really listened to us, number one, and they really wanted the business big time. And I don't think we could have gone with a better agency at this moment in time. And they did great work, and we're proud of the work for sure. So thank you.
You're welcome. It definitely makes a difference when you get someone or hire someone that wants to do it versus, either needs to or can, is capable. That desire and passion that some companies or organizations, agencies, freelancers show or share with you definitely makes a big difference. We've seen that in some of our efforts as well on a few projects. To have the person that you're hiring be as passionate as you are really brings the whole thing together and it shines through.
Agreed.
And I think sometimes, there's value in looking from the inside out, but there's also value when somebody is on the outside looking in, and like, what do they see? And it gives you a different perspective than what you're expecting maybe the outcome to be, and to mesh those two together to really show that message.
Definitely. It's like when you go on vacation off the shore and you think, oh, this is so great. I'm out here, I'm in the city, I'm bouncing around. Second you hit back home, I know when I leave Norfolk Airport and I start driving up the shore, I just take a big breath and I go, oh, that's right. It is so beautiful here. It kind of takes stepping back to see it all over again.
Yeah, one of the things too, as we went through this process, and Scott, something that really plays in the academic space, the agency that we partner with, Bellwether, we asked them a couple things. Number one, we wanted them to partner with some local creatives, which they did. You saw the copywriter and the photographers that they partner with. Those are Baltimore entities. But in addition to that, what we asked the owners of the company as they were going to come on to this partnership, early on, Scott, we said to them that, look, we're Baltimore City, very diverse community. Will you consider bringing an intern in, preferably a person of color, that can partner with you, learn the creative side of things, get paid for it, and really help us? And they said, absolutely yes. So we were very fortunate. We found a student at Morgan State University that was interested in that marketing space. We brought them on as an intern, and they worked side by side with the agency, went to Philly a couple times, learned a trade there, spent time in our shop, worked with Trish in the Marcoms team. And that was something that really played well. We didn't know at the beginning we were going to do this. It sort of came up, and I asked the agency if they would consider it, and they said absolutely. And it really paid off well. We got a great student, and now she's out there working in the workspace doing her thing. So it was really a good story.
And Visit Baltimore is in her portfolio. So
absolutely. And and just broader now, as this is just a little nugget you may want to think about as you work with vendors. Every vendor that we're going to work with in the future, we're asking them to consider bringing an intern on board and on their dime. And we're getting ready to announce really, really soon. I'm sort of preempting it, but I'll do it anyway. We're partnering with a technology company that's going to help us with data collection. And we've asked them, since we're going to write them a check and they're going to partner with us, they got a great platform. We want them to hire a student that's interested in coding and analytics to come on board. And they've agreed to do it. So we're going to create a data fellowship program and hire a student that's going to partner with us and partner with the technology company and get some training, get paid, and learn the industry. So
Continuing that workforce training. Yep, there you go.
it's all intentional. And I think that's the way you have to approach it.
Definitely a large shift from four-year colleges to workforce training you've seen over the past few years, especially with the increase in four-year colleges and difficulty finding jobs to pay for them. So I think it's great that we're able to incorporate all of these avenues, which, you know, really opens it up to a much wider population and variety of folks that maybe didn't want to go to college or couldn't right now. You know, it really doesn't limit the options. You have to go to college, which 5-10 years ago was kind of the message that was being put out. So
Agreed.
all of these together, I think, are great opportunities. Like I said before, it really brings around a comprehensive, collaborative nature. Are there any other? Go ahead, Scott.
I was going to say, Alan, I'm glad you brought that up about the internships, and that's a program that we're really starting to emphasize more here at the community college, to give our learners those opportunities here locally, you know, because they don't have to go to they don't have to leave the shore to have a good career if they don't want to. They have those options, and also that multicultural aspect. I think we talked before about you know, the significant Hispanic and Haitian population here on the shore, as well as the African American population here on the shore. There's just such a unique blend of cultures here that have so much to offer, both from you know, just a general community standpoint, but also from a business standpoint, and tourism. You know, people like to see, they enjoy the local flavor.
Yeah.
You know, and those each community in our larger community has its own little flavor. You know, own set of spices that they bring. So
one other initiative that we're doing in that similar space, Scott, that may be something you want to think about. Trish mentioned it. We partner with Guinness, and you saw that art sculpture. But the partnership we have at Guinness is much bigger than that. We have a sort of a 3-year apprenticeship program that we went to Guinness. We asked them to partner with us. They did this, though, really in the diversity, equity, and inclusion space. And we have an apprentice that we're getting ready to announce real soon. Actually, 2 apprentices that are going to go through a 600-hour paid internship. They're going to spend time with Visit Baltimore, spend time at Guinness, and we're going to bring a 3rd tourism partner to the table. But I bring this up that I know you have Cisco on the shore. They're a big player in the hospitality industry. We're beginning to talk to the private sector, those who are either in the hospitality space or those on the fringe of it, especially the private sector, and get them to partner with the chamber, write a check to you, but help you with the workforce piece. And whoever this individual or individuals would be, they could spend some time at Cisco, learn that space, spend some time at the chamber or one of your other businesses, learn that space, get paid, but you're also exposing young folks to a broader industry. And I think the more public-private partnerships we can create in our destinations, it's a win-win for a company like Cisco. It's a win-win for the chamber or the shore, just something to think about as you move forward. And I use just Cisco as an example because I know they're there, but you have other examples of folks in that space that you may want to collaborate with and have a deeper conversation.
That's a great idea. That's a great idea.
Thanks, Al.
Yep.
Thank you very much, folks. If there's no other questions, I will share that all of this information, especially the contact information, the resources, is going to be pulled together into a follow-up email for registrants. If presenters and partners here are also interested in that, I'm happy to include you on that mailing. And again, if there's any resources that you all would like me to share on our living database, please do not hesitate to email me, shoot me the links, and I will add them right to there. Again, it's living, so anytime something comes up, if you're trying to get the word out, or it's a great resource, you think it's applicable to the group that we've had here, please feel free to share it. And again, thank you all for joining us.
Hey, thanks, guys. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Trish, thank you, Trish.
Thanks, Al.
Thank you, Al and Trish.
All right,
Bye.
All right,
Thank
thanks.
you all.
See you, Scott.
Yeah.